Shedeur Sanders didn't just walk into Paris Fashion Week. He walked straight into the luxury business world and flipped the script. While most NFL rookies are focused on playbooks and practice reps, Shedeur was standing under runway lights, locking in an $80 million fashion partnership that instantly made the sports and fashion industries stop and stare. Let that sink in. A young quarterback, not even in his prime yet, just secured a deal that most veteran athletes never touch in their entire careers. And this isn't about wearing designer clothes for Instagram photos. This is about influence, power, ownership, and building a brand that lives far beyond football. Because what happened in Paris wasn't random. Luxury fashion houses don't gamble millions on hype alone. They invest in cultural leaders, people who move trends, people who bring eyeballs, loyalty, and global attention. And somehow, Shedeur Sanders has positioned himself as exactly that, a bridge between sports, street culture, and high fashion. But here's the part that makes this story even crazier. This Paris moment is just one piece of a much bigger empire. While fans see touchdowns and highlights, behind the scenes Shedeur has been stacking deals, negotiating ownership, and setting up long-term wealth moves that most athletes don't even consider until retirement. And that raises a serious question. Is Shedeur Sanders becoming the most business-savvy athlete of his generation? Or is he moving too fast, putting himself under a spotlight most players aren't ready for? Because with this level of money and attention comes massive pressure. Every move gets watched, every mistake gets amplified. And once you step into the luxury world, there's no going back to being just a player. So buckle up. Because what started on a football field just turned into a global brand takeover. And the ripple effects from this Paris deal are only beginning to surface. The moment Shedeur Sanders touched down in Paris, the internet went into full meltdown mode. This wasn't a casual appearance. This was a full luxury rollout, cameras flashing, fashion insiders watching, high-end designers moving behind the scenes. Shedeur and his brother Shiloh weren't just invited guests, they were part of the show, walking for Amiri, one of the most respected luxury streetwear brands in the world. And that's what made this moment different. NFL players don't normally get placed on elite European runways. That space is reserved for global models, celebrity icons, and cultural tastemakers. But Shedeur wasn't treated like a guest. He was positioned like a centerpiece. From the outfits to the branding placements, everything signaled long-term partnership, not a one-off appearance. It was clear this wasn't about fashion clout. It was about influence. And the timing couldn't have been more strategic. Paris Fashion Week is where brands set the tone for the next year. It's where deals get locked, collaborations get teased, and narratives get built. For Shedeur to make his debut on that stage sends one message: he's playing a global game now. But here's the real twist. Amiri didn't just pick Shedeur because he's famous. They picked him for something much deeper. And that's where this story gets even more interesting. Here, what most people don't understand. Amiri didn't sign Shedeur Sanders because he throws touchdowns. They signed him because he moves culture. Luxury brands aren't chasing athletes anymore, they're chasing influence. They want faces that connect with younger audiences, street culture, music, sports, and social media all at once. And Shedeur sits right in the middle of that intersection. Reports suggest Amiri saw something rare in him: authentic connection to Black American culture, a massive Gen Z fanbase, real engagement, not fake followers. When Shedeur posts, people actually listen. When he shows up somewhere, cameras follow. That's gold in the fashion world. High-end brands are desperate to stay relevant. Traditional runway models don't drive hype anymore. Athletes do, especially athletes who already carry lifestyle appeal, confidence, and built-in audiences. And Shedeur fits that perfectly. He doesn't feel manufactured. He doesn't feel scripted. He represents ambition, swagger, and modern athlete energy. That's exactly what Amiri wanted to attach their brand to. But here's the part that really changed the deal. Shedeur didn't just agree to wear clothes. He positioned himself as a partner. This wasn't about put this jacket on and smile for photos. This was about long-term visibility, runway presence, campaign leadership, and brand alignment. That's why the number attached to this deal shocked everyone. Because when the details started leaking, the money made headlines for a reason. When the numbers started circulating, people thought it was fake. $80 million. Not over a lifetime, not tied to vague performance bonuses. A massive luxury partnership centered around visibility, branding, and long-term positioning. For a player this early in his career, that's unheard of. And this isn't just a wear the brand and disappear deal. Shedeur and Shiloh are reportedly set to appear in major Amiri campaigns, walk international runways, and represent the brand globally. That means recurring exposure across fashion weeks, digital media, billboards, and high-end retail spaces. It's not passive income, it's strategic placement. Hear why that matters. Fashion operates on image and association. When people see Shedeur connected to Amiri, it instantly elevates both sides. The brand taps into sports culture and youth energy. Shedeur taps into luxury credibility and global reach. It's a win-win alignment that keeps paying as long as attention stays high. And attention is exactly what Shedeur brings. He's not just an athlete with followers. He's a storyline, a personality, a movement. That's what makes this deal so valuable. Amiri didn't just buy marketing space, they bought relevance. But here, where the real business genius shows up. This fashion deal didn't happen in isolation. It stacks on top of other major partnerships Shedeur has already built. And once you connect those dots, you realize Paris was just one piece of a much bigger power play. Before Paris ever happened, Shedeur Sanders had already sent a warning shot through the business world. When Gatorade approached him with a massive cash offer, most athletes would have signed immediately. Guaranteed millions, easy money, no risk. But according to reports, Shedeur and his team pushed for something completely different. Ownership. Instead of taking a straight payout, he structured the deal around equity. That means he didn't just become a face in a commercial. He became tied to the long-term growth of the brand. Every product launch, every major campaign, every expansion into new markets, he benefits. That's a power move. Because cash gets spent, ownership compounds. This is the difference between being rich and being wealthy. Rich is getting paid today. Wealth is building something that keeps paying you long after your playing career ends. And by choosing equity, Shedeur made it clear he isn't thinking like a rookie. He's thinking like an investor. That decision caught executives off guard. When an athlete is willing to walk away from guaranteed money in exchange for long-term stake, it changes the negotiation dynamic. Brands stop seeing you as talent for hire. They start seeing you as a partner. And that's exactly what happened. The Gatorade deal wasn't just another endorsement. It became part of a growing portfolio, one stream feeding into another. Fashion, beverage, apparel, media, all stacking on top of each other. But even that wasn't the biggest financial twist. Because when you look at what Shedeur negotiated with Nike, that's when things truly went nuclear. This is where Shedeur's business strategy stopped looking smart and started looking dangerous for the rest of the league. Before he even became a full-time NFL starter, reports surfaced that Shedeur had locked in a massive Nike partnership. At first, people shrugged it off. Big brand, big athlete, standard endorsement. But buried inside that deal was a clause most fans completely missed. An active player escalator. According to reports, the moment Shedeur officially suited up as an active roster quarterback, preseason or regular season, The value of his Nike contract automatically jumped. Not after Pro Bowls, not after playoff runs. Instantly. That meant his earnings weren't tied to perfection. They were tied to presence. Just stepping on the field triggered a financial boost. That's unheard of for a rookie. And it didn't stop there. Shedeur also reportedly negotiated royalty percentages connected to his jersey sales. In the NFL, most players see only a tiny slice of merchandise revenue. The league and teams usually control that pipeline. Shedeur flipped it. Instead of being used to sell jerseys, he positioned himself to profit directly from everyone that moves. Every fan purchase becomes a paycheck. Every viral moment turns into revenue. Every highlight adds to his bottom line. That's not endorsement money, that's infrastructure. This setup protects him from uncertainty. Injuries don't erase it. Depth chart drama doesn't cancel it. Performance still matters, but the financial foundation stays active. And that's why executives quietly started paying attention. Because once a rookie proves this structure is possible, others will follow. Future prospects won't just ask for signing bonuses anymore. They'll ask for escalators, royalties, ownership language. And when that happens, the entire athlete-business relationship changes. But here's the wild part. All this leverage didn't just bring money. It brought massive visibility. And that visibility exploded his brand in ways nobody predicted. Once the deals went public, the numbers started telling a story nobody could ignore. Shedeur Sanders wasn't just trending online, he was moving product. Reports showed his jersey sales climbing faster than most rookies, even outperforming players drafted ahead of him. That's rare. Late-round picks usually fight for attention. Shedeur flipped that script. And here's the most important part. Fans weren't buying the team. They were buying him. That distinction is massive. It means loyalty isn't tied to a logo. It's tied to the name on the back of the jersey. That kind of following gives an athlete portable influence. Wherever he goes, the audience follows. That's what brands want. That's what sponsors pay for. That's what turns athletes into global figures instead of local stars. It also explains why his royalty clauses matter so much. Every jersey sold isn't just a flex, it's recurring income. While most players barely see a fraction of merchandise revenue, Shedeur positioned himself to benefit directly from the demand he created. That's monetizing fandom at the highest level. And this momentum didn't come from nowhere. He built this audience years ago. College highlights, social media presence, nil-era branding. By the time he entered the league, the fan base was already locked in. The NFL wasn't creating his brand, it was inheriting it. But success at this level doesn't come without consequences. Because when your name gets this big, so does the target on your back. And that pressure is about to test everything Shedeur has built. Once you step into this level of spotlight, there's no such thing as a quiet game anymore. With massive deals, runway appearances, and business headlines attached to his name, Shedeur Sanders isn't just judged as a quarterback. He's judged as a brand. Every throw, every mistake, every bad drive gets magnified because people aren't just watching the player, they're watching the empire. And critics are already lining up. Some fans are starting to question priorities. Others are saying the business side is getting louder than the football side. You'll hear comments like "focus on the playbook" or "win first, brand later." That narrative is building, and it only gets louder when money enters the conversation. But it's not just media pressure. Defensive players know exactly who he is. They know the headlines. They know the deals. And you better believe every pass rusher would love to be the one who sacks the Fashion Week quarterback. Extra motivation shows up when you carry this much attention. That's the trade-off. When you position yourself as a CEO on the field, you don't get rookie patience anymore. You get superstar expectations before the resume fully matches the spotlight. And here's the risky part. Brands move fast. If performance dips, sponsorship momentum slows, campaigns pause, narratives shift. Business success in sports is directly tied to credibility on the field. That's the invisible pressure Shedeur now carries every Sunday. Which brings us to the bigger picture. Because what he's doing doesn't just affect his own career. It's quietly changing how future athletes think about power, ownership, and leverage. And the league is already feeling it. What Shedeur Sanders is doing right now isn't just personal success. It's a signal. For decades, the NFL controlled the leverage. Rookies showed up grateful, quiet, willing to accept whatever structure was handed to them. You performed first, then hoped the money followed later. That was the system. The NIL era broke that pattern. College athletes learned how to monetize attention early. They learned branding, partnerships, and negotiation before ever stepping into a professional locker room. And Shedeur is the clearest example of what happens when that mindset carries into the NFL. He didn't arrive trying to fit in. He arrived with a business blueprint. Future prospects are watching this closely. 5-star recruits, top quarterbacks, elite receivers. They're seeing that you don't have to give up image rights, that you can ask for equity, that you can negotiate partnerships instead of begging for endorsements. That's uncomfortable for franchises. Because once players understand their real value, the balance of power shifts. Teams can't rely only on rookie contracts anymore. They can't slow negotiations with red tape. They can't fully control branding narratives like they used to. The athlete becomes the asset, not the logo, not the stadium, not the franchise name. And that's the scary part for ownership. If Shedeur proves this model works, it won't stay rare. It becomes a template. And once multiple stars start walking into the league with business teams, lawyers, and branding strategies already built, the old system starts cracking. This isn't a trend. It's a transition. And it's happening in real time. Which leads to the biggest question of all. If this momentum keeps growing, how far can Shedeur actually take this empire? Now let's slow this down and be clear. Nobody is saying Shedeur Sanders is a billionaire right now. But there's growing buzz around what his trajectory could look like if everything continues stacking the way it has so far. And that's where things get interesting. When analysts talk about billionaire potential, they're not talking about one contract. They're talking about layers, fashion partnerships, beverage equity plays, apparel deals, merchandise royalties, media licensing, digital branding. Add future NFL contracts on top of that, and suddenly you're not dealing with a single paycheck anymore. You're dealing with multiple income engines running at the same time. That's the key difference. Most athletes rely on salary first and endorsement second. Shedeur flipped that model. His off-field business is already moving at a superstar pace, while his on-field career is still just getting started. That's rare. And it's exactly why some business insiders believe his ceiling goes far beyond traditional athlete wealth. There's also the long game factor. Ownership-based deals don't expire the way contracts do. Equity grows, royalties compound, brand partnerships expand internationally. If even a few of these ventures scale the way supporters expect, the long-term numbers start getting uncomfortable for traditional sports economics. That's why comparisons are already being whispered, not in stats, not in championships, but in business impact. Names like Jordan, LeBron, Magic Johnson, athletes who didn't just make money, they built ecosystems. And here's the part that makes executives nervous. Shedeur is starting this process early. Not after retirement, not after Hall of Fame seasons. Right now. Even if he never touches billionaire status. The fact that this conversation exists around a young quarterback tells you everything about how the athlete business landscape is shifting. This isn't just growth, it's acceleration. And whether people like it or not, the blueprint is already being watched, studied, and copied. What happened in Paris wasn't just a runway moment, it was a statement. Shedeur Sanders didn't walk into luxury fashion to look cool. He walked in to expand his empire. From Amiri's $80 million partnership to equity-style brand deals, royalty structures, and nil-era leverage, he's building something that goes far beyond touchdowns and highlight reels. And that's what makes this moment so powerful. He's not waiting until retirement to think about business. He's not relying on one paycheck. He's stacking influence, ownership, and visibility while his playing career is still loading up. That's a mindset shift the sports world isn't fully prepared for. But here's the real test. All of this attention only works if the football matches the hype. If he performs, this becomes legendary. If he struggles, the backlash will be louder than ever. That's the price of stepping into the CEO role early. Bigger rewards, bigger risks. So now the spotlight is locked in. Paris was the fashion debut. The contracts are signed. The brand is built. What comes next will be decided on the field. And that's what makes this story so addictive. Because we're not just watching a quarterback anymore. We're watching the rise of a new type of athlete, part player, part businessman, part global brand. Now I want to hear from you. Do you think Shedeur's $80 million Amiri deal is the future of athlete endorsements? Or is this too much too fast? Drop your take in the comments. And if you want more behind-the-scenes breakdowns like this, hit that subscribe button because this story is only getting bigger.